I was lounging in front of the TV, lost in the comfort of some animated show, when my mother Elle walked in. Her presence was like a shift in the air, demanding attention. "Ivy, you need to stop watching TV like you're still a child," she said, her voice a mix of frustration and something else I couldn't place. "It's time to act like an adult." Before I could respond, her hand was on me, touching me in a way that was both shocking and confusing. The room was bathed in the flickering light of the TV, casting shadows that danced around us. I had always found solace in these shows, escaping into worlds where problems were solved within 30 minutes, where happiness was just an episode away. I was in my usual spot on the couch, wrapped in the warmth of a blanket, my mind half on the screen and half drifting through thoughts of school friends and the mundane worries of teenage life. The show was at a peak moment, the characters in a comedic scramble, when I heard her footsteps. Lana's approach was never subtle. She had the presence of someone who commanded a room without even trying. I glanced up, expecting her usual critique on my choice of entertainment, or perhaps a reminder about homework or chores, but the look in her eyes was different this time, intense, almost predatory. She stood there, her silhouette against the light from the hallway, her expression one of determination mixed with something I couldn't quite decipher. "Ivy," she said, her voice cutting through the laughter from the TV. "You need to stop watching TV like you're still a child." Her words were like a splash of cold water pulling me out of my comfort zone. My sanctuary, the first, opened my mouth to argue to defend my choice of relaxation, but the words caught in my throat as she moved closer. The air around us seemed to thicken, charged with an energy I had never felt from her before. She was always the disciplinarian, the one who reminded me of my responsibilities. But this was different. There was an edge to her voice, a command that went beyond the usual parental directives. "It's time to act like an adult," she continued, her tone softening into something that was both coaxing and demanding. I felt a prickle of unease, a sense that this conversation was veering into uncharted territory. My heart began to race, not from fear of a lecture, but from an unfamiliar anticipation, a sense that something was about to change. Then, without warning, her hand was on me. Not a gentle touch, but something more deliberate, more intimate. It was at my thigh first, the warmth of her hand through my leggings sending a jolt through me. I gasped, half in surprise, half in confusion. My body tensed as I tried to understand what was happening. "Mom, what are you doing?" I managed to stammer out, my voice a mix of confusion and a burgeoning sense of alarm. Her touch moved, tracing a path that felt both forbidden and exhilarating. I could feel the heat of her hand, the slight pressure as if she was exploring. Claiming the room seemed to shrink around us. The TV is now just background noise, the cheerful sounds clashing with the tension in the air. Her touch was not just physical, it was a statement, a challenge to the roles we had always known. I felt a surge of emotions, shock, curiosity, and an underlying current of something darker, something I had never acknowledged before. She didn't answer my question with words, but with her actions. Her hand moved with purpose, and then she brought it up to my face, forcing me to smell it. The scent was overwhelming, a mix of something intimate, something taboo. It was like nothing I had ever experienced, a scent that spoke of places I had never ventured to or experiences I had never considered. The smell was sharp and personal, a direct connection to her. To this moment, it was as if she was pulling me into a new dimension of our relationship, one where the boundaries were not just blurred but completely redrawn. My senses reeled, my mind racing to catch up with my body's reactions. This wasn't just about stopping me from watching TV. It was about something much more profound, much more forbidden. Here in this moment, my mother was not just challenging my habits, but the very fabric of our familial roles. The air was thick with the implications of what she was doing, what she was asking of me without words. I felt caught between wanting to escape, to run from this unexpected intimacy, and a strange growing curiosity about where this could lead. The room was silent now, the TV show forgotten, as if the world outside this moment didn't exist. All that mattered was her or me, and the boundary we were about to cross. I tried to pull away, the shock of her touch sending waves of confusion through me. "Mom, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and bewilderment. She didn't answer with words, but with actions, her hand moving with purpose. She then brought her hand to my face, forcing me to smell it. The scent was overwhelming, A mix of her something intimate, something taboo. The initial shock was like a physical blow, my body reacting before my mind could process the event. I flinched, my muscles tensing as I tried to move away from her touch, from the implications of what was happening. My heart was pounding in my chest, each beat a drum of confusion, of alarm, of something else I couldn't name. "Mom, this isn't right," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The words felt like a plea, a warning, a bond I was desperately trying to maintain, but my protest seemed to have no effect. Her resolve was like an unyielding force, pushing past my objections with the sheer power of her presence. Her hand, still warm from where it had been, was now at my face. The scent enveloped me, overwhelming my senses. It was a scent that was undeniably hers, mixed with something else, something that spoke of forbidden places of intimacy. I had never considered my initial disgust was palpable. My instinct screamed at me to pull away, to reject this invasion of my personal space, this challenge to our roles, but Lana held firm, her fingers gently but insistently pressing against my cheek, guiding me to smell her hand. "Smell it, Ivy," she said. Her voice was a command wrapped in a whisper, a challenge to my sense of what was normal, what was acceptable. There was a note in her voice, a hint of something that could be desire, or perhaps it was just my imagination running wild in the face of this unexpected intimacy. The room seemed to close in around us, the air thick with the scent and the tension of our actions. I felt trapped, caught between the familiarity of my mother and this new shocking aspect of her. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, trying to reconcile the woman who had raised me with this person who was now pushing boundaries. I had never considered that they could be crossed. I resisted turning my head away, a physical manifestation of my internal struggle. My body was tense, every muscle ready to flee. Yet part of me was anchored by curiosity, by a confusing desire to understand this moment, to explore what lay beyond this shock. "This isn't what we should be doing," I managed to say, my voice cracking under the weight of my confusion. Lana's response was not verbal but physical, her hand following my turn, her touch not relenting. It was as if she was determined to break through my resistance to introduce me to a new layer of our relationship, one where the rules were different, where the boundaries were not just pushed but obliterated. The scent was like a key unlocking something within me, a part I hadn't known existed. It was repulsive at first, a violation of all I understood about love, about family, but as it lingered, as I breathed it in despite myself, there was a shift, a subtle change in perception. The smell was no longer just about her. It was about this moment, about the forbidden nature of what we were doing, about the raw, unfiltered intimacy that was now between us. My resistance was not just physical but also moral and societal. Everything I had been taught about, right and wrong, about the sanctity of familial relationships, was being challenged, but there was something else there too, a curiosity that was beginning to take root. The scent was complex, layered with the essence of her, with hints of the day's activities, with an underlying musk that was both shocking and intriguing. As I breathed in involuntarily at first, the scent began to do something unexpected. It began to awaken something within me, a part that was both scared and fascinated. It was as if the smell was a bridge to a new understanding, to a new way of seeing her, of seeing myself in relation to her. Lana's voice, when she spoke again, was softer, almost soothing. "You need to understand, Ivy, there are parts of your life that you haven't explored yet." Her words were like a whisper in the dark, guiding me towards something I wasn't sure I wanted to see yet, couldn't look away from. I felt a surge of emotions, confusion, guilt, but also an emerging sense of curiosity. The taboo nature of what was happening was undeniable, yet there was an allure to it, a forbidden fruit. We were both now tasting it, my mind racing with questions about the implications of this moment. Was this love, or was it something darker, something that society would never accept? The scent was no longer just her. It was our secret, our shared moment of crossing lines. I kept trying to turn away to escape the complexity of this interaction, but each time her hand was there, gentle but firm, insisting on this new form of communication. The room was silent except for our breathing, mine rapid and shallow from my shock, hers steady as if she had anticipated this moment, planned for it. "Smell it, Ivy. Learn to appreciate this part of adulthood," she urged again, her voice carrying an edge of command of education. It was as if she was teaching me a new lesson, one about desire, about control, about the complexities of human relationships that went beyond the simple love of mother and daughter. The scent was now a part of me, mingling with my own breath, becoming something that was no longer just about her, but about us, about this moment we were sharing. My initial disgust began to wane, replaced by a fascination with this new aspect of her, of us. I felt a conflict within me, the part of me that understood the wrongness of this clashing with the part that was beginning to explore to question. The scent was like a spell, weaving through my senses, challenging my perceptions, my boundaries. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for my next move for my decision in this dance of shock and curiosity. I was at a crossroads where every breath was a step towards something new, something forbidden yet undeniably real. As I inhaled once more, not out of resistance but out of a growing, confusing desire to understand, to explore, I knew that this moment would change everything. We were stepping into a new territory, one where the roles of mother and daughter were being redefined, where the scent of her was no longer just a scent, but a symbol of our complex, evolving bond. I resisted turning my head away, my instinct screaming that this was wrong, but Lana was insistent. Her voice a command. Ivy, learn to appreciate this part of adulthood. Her words were like a spell. I threw my resistance away. The scent was initially repulsive, but there was something else there, something that piqued my curiosity, that stirred something within me. The room felt like it was closing in, the air thick with tension, with the scent of her, with the weight of our actions. My mind was a storm of emotions, each one fighting for dominance. There was the instinctual pull to reject, to run from this moment, to preserve the sanctity of our relationship as I had always known it. But there was also a burgeoning curiosity, a forbidden thrill at the edges of my consciousness. My initial reaction was to pull back physically and emotionally. I turned my face away, the motion sharp, a clear sign of rejection. "Mom, no! This isn't right!" I protested, my voice shaking with the confusion of the moment. The scent of her was still in my nostrils, a constant reminder of the boundary we were crossing, but Lana was relentless, her hand following my movement, her touch both commanding and strangely comforting. "You need to understand," she said, her voice a mix of sternness and something else, perhaps a hint of excitement. "There are parts of life you haven't touched, experiences you haven't felt." Her words were like a spell, trying to weave through my resistance to dismantle my objections. The scent was overwhelming, a mix of her perfume, the day's activities, and something deeply personal, something that should have been private. It was like she was opening a door I had never noticed, leading to a room of shadows and secrets. My body was tense, every muscle ready to flee from this uncomfortable intimacy, yet a part of me was anchored by a confusing desire to explore what lay beyond my immediate shock. I resisted again. My hands come up to push hers away, my voice rising in panic and confusion. "This isn't what adulthood means," I argued, trying to assert some control, some sense of normalcy, but even as I spoke, I felt the words losing their conviction, my curiosity battling with my morals. Lana's response was not to argue back, but to guide my face back. Her touch was now gentle and persuasive. "Adulthood is about understanding all parts of yourself, Ivy, even the ones society tells you to hide," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of years of secrets, of hidden desires perhaps never expressed until now. The scent was no longer just a smell. It was a narrative, a story of her, of us, that was unfolding in this moment. It was repulsive in its intimacy, in its violation of all I knew, yet there was a part of it that was drawing me in, a part that was saying, what if I could feel my resistance weakening? Not because I wanted to give in, but because the act of resisting was making me more aware of the scent of her, of the forbidden nature of this interaction. Each attempt to pull away, to reject, was met with her persistent guidance, her insistence that I see, that I smell, that I understand. The room was silent, save for our breathing, mine quick and uneven from the turmoil of emotions, hers calm as if she was navigating this moment with a purpose, with a plan. The tension was palpable, a living thing that seemed to watch, to wait for my next move. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, of societal norms clashing with this new complex reality. I was torn between what I had been taught about right and wrong and the raw, unfiltered experience unfolding before me. The scent was not just an assault on my senses, but an invitation to a part of life I had never contemplated. "You're pushing too far," I managed to say. My voice was a mix of fear and a burgeoning sense of curiosity. The words were like a shield and an attempt to maintain some semblance of control. But even as I spoke, I felt the shield weakening, the curiosity peeking through the cracks. Lana's hand remained a constant presence, her fingers gently but firmly holding my chin, ensuring I could not escape this moment. "Sometimes, Ivy, we have to push to understand," she said, her voice now a whisper, coaxing and challenging to grow. The scent was now a part of me, mingling with my own breath, becoming something that was no longer just about her but about us, about this moment we were sharing. Even as I fought against it, I felt my resistance beginning to wane. The smell was beginning to weave its way into my consciousness, not just as something to be rejected, but as something to be understood, to be explored. It was as if each breath was a step closer to accepting this new complex aspect of our relationship. Lana's patience and insistence were like a force of nature eroding my defenses, not with aggression, but with a relentless, gentle persuasion. Her touch was both a command and a comfort, a guide into this unknown territory. I felt a conflict within me, the part of me that understood the wrongness of this clashing with the part that was beginning to explore. To question the scent was like a spell weaving through my senses, challenging my perceptions, my boundaries, as I inhaled once more, not out of resistance but out of a growing, confusing desire to understand, to explore. I knew that this moment would change everything. We were stepping into a new territory, one where the roles of mother and daughter were being redefined, where the scent of her was no longer just a scent but a symbol of our complex, evolving bond. Slowly, the initial disgust gave way to curiosity, then to something more. The smell of her, of what she was forcing upon me, was no longer just shocking. It was intriguing. I found myself leaning in, not away, my resistance melting into acceptance. "Do it again," I whispered, the words slipping out before I could catch them. The thrill of the forbidden mingling with the confusion. The room was a cocoon of silence broken only by the sound of our breathing, now sinking in this moment of profound change. The scent that had been so alien, so wrong, was now a bridge connecting me to parts of myself, of our relationship, that I had never acknowledged before. I felt my body relax, the tension that had held me rigid now giving way to an odd sense of curiosity, of exploration. The air was still thick with her scent, but it was no longer just an assault on my senses. It was an invitation, a call to delve deeper into this forbidden intimacy. I had resisted fighting against this moment with every fiber of my being, but now something had shifted. The scent, once repulsive, now had layers and nuances that spoke to me, that tugged at something deep within. It was like discovering a new color in a world I thought I knew completely. "Do it again," I whispered, the words escaping before I could retract them. My voice, a mix of shock at my own request and an emerging sense of excitement. It was as if a part of me hidden under layers of societal norms and familial expectations had woken up and was now speaking its desires. Lana's reaction was immediate, a smile touching her lips. Not of mockery, but of satisfaction of victory, she complied, her hand moving once more, the scent enveloping us again in its intimate embrace. This time I leaned into the sensation, my curiosity overcoming my initial revulsion. The scent was no longer just about her. It was about this moment, this shared secret. This crossing of boundaries was about exploring the forbidden, about understanding the complexity of human emotions and relationships that went beyond the conventional. As I breathed in, I felt a rush of sensations, confusion and guilt, but also an undeniable thrill. There was a part of me, a part I had never acknowledged, that was intrigued by this act, by this exploration of the taboo. My mind was a battlefield where the old rules of right and wrong were clashing with this new dark curiosity. I closed my eyes, letting the scent guide me, allowing it to take me beyond the immediate shock into a realm where touch, scent, and emotion intertwined. It was like stepping into a dream, one where the rules were different, where the forbidden was not just accepted but sought after. Lana's voice was a soft murmur, encouraging, understanding. "That's it, Ivy. Embrace it," she said, her words wrapping around me. This was not just about physical sensations. It was about emotional boundaries, about redefining our bond. I felt a strange sense of empowerment in this submission, in this acceptance of the forbidden. It was like I was taking control by giving it up, by exploring this new facet of our relationship. The scent was now a part of me, an echo of this moment that would forever alter how I saw her, how I saw myself more. I found myself saying the word, a whisper of desire, of curiosity, of acceptance. It was a request, an acknowledgement that I wanted to delve deeper to understand this part of us that was so hidden, so taboo. Lana responded with a touch that was both familiar and new, her hand moving with purpose, guiding me through this exploration. Each movement was a lesson, a step further into this new understanding of intimacy, of control, of submission. The room felt like a sanctuary now, where our secret was safe, where we could explore without judgment. The scent was no longer just a scent. It was a symbol, a testament to our bond, to this journey we were embarking on together. It was about growth, about understanding, about love in its most complex, most forbidden form. As I breathed in again, embracing the scent, embracing this new aspect of our relationship, I felt a profound connection, a love that was now layered with this new intimacy. I knew I would carry this acceptance, this understanding forward. It was a bond forged in the fires of curiosity and desire, a secret that would bind us closer than ever before, altering how I viewed companionship, how I viewed love. It was a moment of profound connection, one that would forever alter the dynamics of our lives together. The night passed, and with each breath, each heartbeat, I felt the acceptance settle deeper within me. This wasn't just about the physical act. It was about the depth of our connection, about the lengths we would go to understand each other, to love each other in ways that defied norms. The air was still thick with her scent, but there was also a new peace, a silent agreement that we had ventured into a new territory of our relationship. I felt a responsibility not just to care for her in the physical sense, but to nurture this bond, this understanding that had now taken on a new, more complex dimension. As I lay there, the scent still on my lips, I knew this was not the end, but a beginning. An acceptance of what had happened and of what it meant for us was the first step in navigating this new chapter. I would love her, protect her, and ensure her happiness, even if it meant carrying this secret, this unconventional form of love, with me forever. It was our story, our unique journey into the heart of companionship, beyond the boundaries of what is considered normal, into a realm where love was defined by care, by comfort, by an unspoken promise to be there for each other no matter what. Lana's response was immediate. Her actions were a dance of control and desire. We moved from the couch to the floor, the TV forgotten, the world outside our bubble non-existent. The intimacy was like nothing I'd ever experienced, a forbidden dance where we both played roles we never should have. It was both shocking and liberating, a secret shared in the quiet of our living room. The transition from resistance to acceptance had opened a door we couldn't close, not that we wanted to. The room felt different now, charged with an energy that was both thrilling and terrifying. The TV, which had been our background noise, was now just a silent observer to this new intimate dance. Lana's touch was no longer just about guiding my senses. It was about exploring new territories of our bond. She moved closer, her presence both comforting and commanding. I felt a shiver down my spine, not from cold, but from the anticipation of what was to come. Her hands were gentle yet firm, pulling me down from the couch onto the soft carpet below. The floor was cool against my skin, a stark contrast to the heat of the moment, the heat of her touch. Her movements were deliberate, each one a step further into this forbidden intimacy. She whispered, her voice a mix of command and reassurance. "Let go, Ivy. Explore with me." I felt my heart pounding, not just from the physicality of the situation, but from the emotional whirlwind it stirred. There was a part of me that wanted to stop to reclaim the boundaries of our relationship, but another part, the part that had been starved for touch and for understanding, leaned into this moment.